You're watching Force 13's live streaming service.
Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to Force 13 Live. We have some breaking news coming off at the top of the hour here. Tropical Storm Eta has been named by the National Hurricane Center. Obviously, that's not what our satellite is focused over right now, though, because we have an absolutely devastating typhoon that is impacting the Philippines right now. And with me, I have quite the team to cover it here. That is comprised of Amy, Codemo, and Paul. How are all three of you doing this evening?
Pretty good, I'd say.
Morning to everyone from the Philippines.
Yes, and in the Philippines, it's been a really rough ride overnight, especially for those that are on Catanduanes and heading inland now into the morning hours here. We've downgraded it to a Category 4 as of recently. It now has winds of 150 miles per hour and a pressure of 929 millibars. So, with that being said, it's really been an interesting last day, and it's been a catastrophic day for the Philippines. So the question is now, what do we think when it comes to this storm? What have been our thoughts on it over the past day or so? All right, well...
levels we wouldn't expect, absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely been an unexpected occurrence. I think we can all say that. It was not expected to be anywhere near this magnitude, this strength, when we were talking about it yesterday. But today it has become quite a catastrophic storm. We're now on to, we're joined by Isaac, and Isaac, you have some radar here. This is not looking anywhere near as good as it was earlier today. Explain and take us through what's happened throughout the day today.
Oh, you kind of caught me at a bad time right now, but give me a second here.
All right. Well,
yes, looking at radar the past 3 hours here, you can see the eye, of course, is pretty much gone in terms of, having a really clear-cut eye there on radar here. It's really undergone some rapid weakening here. In fact, the Joint Typhoon Warning Center in the latest update have the storm as a 115-knot storm, which if I'm not mistaken, I believe is equivalent to about 140 or 135 miles per hour, if I'm not mistaken.
130 miles an hour from the JTWC.
Yeah, it's incredible how fast this thing's intensified, and then now how fast it's weakening here. So, if this is the case here, really good news for the Philippines, but still, regardless, a serious typhoon here we're looking at right now. Of course, fortunately, officially at this point, not a Cat 5, but still something to take seriously here, and nothing to ignore at this point.
Certainly.
Yeah, definitely. If you're in the Philippines, still keep an eye on it if you haven't already.
Yeah, keep an eye on this storm. It's still going to be bringing some nastier impacts to the Philippines. Let's go over a couple of things. We just had some new forecast products come out on it. First of all, let's take a look at the Joint Typhoon Warning Center's latest update. They just updated it. We have the storm at 150 miles per hour, or 130 knots. Joint Typhoon Warning Center has it at around 115 knots, or 130 miles per hour. So as the storm does move through, you can see JTWC weakening it to 90 knots, that's 105 miles per hour, before taking it into the South China Sea, and then eventually moving towards Vietnam, making a Vietnam landfall with winds of 65 miles per hour. That's according to the JTWC. Our forecast disagrees a little bit. We have a 50 mile per hour landfall remaining for Vietnam. The final landfall is forecast. It could make a couple more in the Philippines. We're not forecasting those specific landfalls because there's a lot of uncertainty on the exact track over the next few hours. But what you can see here is that Goni remains a super typhoon with winds of 150 miles per hour, just barely. May no longer be a super typhoon by the end of the hour. We'll see. We'll have a new intensity estimate right before the end of the hour. You can see in about 12 hours' time, we're forecasting this to be south of Manila with 100-mile-an-hour winds. Manila could get typhoon conditions. We're going to then see this be a Category 1 as it moves into the South China Sea. And again, we're expecting a 50-mile-per-hour landfall in Vietnam. Now, that doesn't mean Vietnam should be letting their guard down, though. If you take a look, these are our key messages. You can find these frequently updated on our social media outlets. But this is our latest key messages graphic. And you can see here for the Philippines, Rolly is a Stage 7 on the CDPS scale. That means catastrophic damage is possible from this. It was a Stage 9 earlier today. Stage 7, though, is still no joke. This is still going to be bringing catastrophic winds over 250 kilometers per hour over the next few hours. Catastrophic storm surge is also likely with the storm, and torrential rainfall will cause mudslides and flooding throughout the Philippines. Not only that, but in Vietnam, Goni is a Stage 5 on the CDPS scale, meaning that still devastating damage is possible. And dangerous rainfall over 750 millimeters is possible in Goni for Vietnam. So it's definitely a concern over there. But you can see those moderate impacts right along the Vietnam coast, and you can see that small area of high impacts. That's where the most dangerous parts of this storm are expected to go over the next few hours. If you are within the high impact area and you haven't received many impacts from Goni yet, conditions are expected to rapidly deteriorate for you in short order. All right, with that being said,
and on the idea of Vietnam, they just really not had a good thing with the past couple tropical cyclones that have been making impacts over there.
No, it's definitely been bad news over there when it comes to tropical cyclones. Let's take a look real quick at a couple of more analytical things. This is the latest microwave as of quite a while ago. You could see that eye wall really starting to become disjointed. We saw on Isaac's radar recently that eye wall, that eye has been completely filled in with rainfall. The eye is not dry at all anymore. That eye is beginning to collapse, and hence the weakening on the storm that we've been showing. Another thing that's really important that isn't talked about enough, in my opinion, is the potential rainfall from these storms. What you're seeing here is the current extrapolated rain rates from the storm based on microwave and infrared satellite, and you can see there rain rate over 1 inch per hour being shown in some spots. That's over 50 millimeters an hour. That's quite heavy, and that can still produce a lot of rain. We also have an extrapolated rainfall graphic. This is courtesy of NOAA, and the extrapolated rainfall possibilities are over a foot of rain, over 12 inches of rain. That's over 300 millimeters of rain. For context, that is absolutely devastating amounts of rain, and we in some cases could get over 400, maybe even 500 millimeters of rain in local areas. So definitely something to keep an eye on there for sure. To the team, what are your thoughts on the general impacts that we could see from this storm?
I think in terms of course, the wind threat that's going to start to diminish here. Still, a significant typhoon we're talking about here, but not, of course, a 170 knot, 195 mile an hour typhoon we're talking about anymore here. Still, regardless, need to be taking this typhoon seriously. And like you mentioned just a few minutes ago, rainfall is also going to be a big concern with it. Radar is definitely showing that here. For Philippines here, a lot of red splotches all over the northern Philippines here, indicative of really heavy rainfall occurring. And other than the wind threat, it's also, like you said, a big rainfall threat. Storm surge, I'm not too certain if that's gone down a little bit here. Now that it's overland, I don't know the exact details on that. If Thomas, you know about that.
So when it comes to storm surge, I don't know exactly what we're looking at when it comes to storm surge. What I do know is that our expectations earlier today were 4 to 5 meters of storm surge being possible in some spots, and I know we had some videos come in of some absolutely catastrophic storm surge. Storm surge isn't going to be as high for other areas because where we have land cutting off this storm where it's going to be able to swell up water. So as those winds have weakened, we're definitely not going to be seeing as high a storm surge as we head farther throughout the Philippines as we did at first. Still, though, storm surge can be a big threat along with rainfall, and again, still extremely dangerous 150 mile per hour winds still within this storm. Alright, with that being said, let's take a look at some model solutions. The forecast of the storm is a little uncertain. I do like to take a little bit of a dive into how exactly we forecast these storms, just so you can make your own interpretations from it. You can see here the H-Wharf. This is one of our better models initializing the storm just 5 miles an hour above our estimate. And you can see here it weakens the storm pretty quickly, still having winds of 150 miles an hour in about 3 hours' time, and moving it to about winds of 115 miles an hour before moving it off of the coast of the Philippines as a typhoon, and Manila receiving tropical storm force winds. If this does move farther north, then Manila could certainly receive typhoon conditions. As this moves into the South China Sea, we see rather clearly a weaker storm, a less organized storm, that does in eventuality head towards and move into Vietnam. We forecast it moving into Vietnam. You can actually see here, we do show a Vietnam landfall, the H-Wharf here. Not as keen on it until the day 5 point, but we do dissipate it by then. GFS model on a larger scale, we can actually take a look at Itsani, which we'll touch on briefly here in just a little bit. And at that point, we will then move on to Itsani. But you can see here that landfall that does move in, and then we have the storm moving back out over the seas before moving inland. And then you can see Itsani there on the GFS being a Category 1 or 2 typhoon. All right, well, Paul, it looks like you have some news for us.
So, it seems like Pagasa has already released their TCWS map. And it looks like the signal number 4 coverage has been extended to a wide variety of areas, not only in Albay already. And the absence of signal number 5 seems like the storm has weakened into a typhoon.
So that means
yeah.
That means Pagasa's weakened it to a typhoon. It's no longer a super typhoon, according to Pagasa.
Well, I can't confirm yet because Pagasa weirdly released this map first before the bulletin. So I'll just keep you up to date when Pagasa will release it.
And what time would be when the update is released?
11 a.m. now. But again, they released the map first.
All right.
Yeah, that is interesting. I really do hope that it's weakened into just a regular typhoon.
Yeah, me as well. As you can see, though, those Signal 5 warnings have been dropped. Signal 4 warnings have increased significantly in coverage. If you take a look at our live stream bottom bar there, you'll see the old warnings still there. We're not going to be able to update those during this hour, so those will be a little bit out of date, but they'll still be generally representative of the impacts that you can receive. Some notable areas that are now within a Signal 4 warning: Manila, now within a Signal 4 warning. Batangas, I believe, remains in a Signal 4 warning. We have Pulio Island now in a Signal 4 warning. Bataan in a Signal 4 warning. So lots of new areas within that, and you can see there the entirety of Luzon within a warning of some sort. So definitely some concerning signs there. All right, let's move on and talk about Itsani for a little bit. I know it's not an overly interesting storm, but it's still something that I think is worth mentioning because it does pose yet another threat after Goni to the Philippines. So now that Goni's shear is going to start lightening up, what do we expect this storm to do?
The storm is forecast to kind of meander around the same general region here over the next few days and start to kind of gradually get itself together here. And eventually the Joint Typhoon Warning Center looks like they forecast the storm to peak as a 85 knot or near peak as an 85 knot typhoon upon landfall in the northern Philippines there. Looks like between November 6th and November 5th UTC time.
Yeah, so when it comes to the storm, this is the Joint Typhoon Warning Center's latest forecast. They forecast this to strengthen into a tropical storm within the next 12 hours, before moving northward and strengthening into a typhoon off the coast of Luzon. And then, interestingly enough, they have an 85-knot typhoon coming almost off the coast of Luzon, which indicates the storm's probably significantly stronger as it heads into the Philippines. I mean, 100 knots, 115 miles per hour could be on the cards for this. So another significant Luzon impact could be on the cards.
And I really want to stress this as well. This is a really uncertain forecast, too. We're looking at with this particular typhoon here. Some models take it far north of the Philippines, some take it directly towards the Philippines here, so it's kind of an ever-changing situation here. I guess it really decides on what tries to do here when it kind of stalls out nearly, or at least slows down here, as it starts to gain intensity here, around November 3rd, November 2nd, there UTC time.
Yeah, it's all really about like next couple of days and how it will strengthen. I mean, we hope that it misses or it doesn't strengthen to expectations, but it's really just something that we need to continue to watch.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be watched closely. We can actually see there that JTWC cone is quite large. I mean, Taiwan is within that danger area. Some of those southern islands of Japan almost within that danger area that the JTWC has. And then you can see all the way to areas that Goni is impacting now within that cone. So a rather large area with the potential to receive tropical storm force winds, according to the JTWC. So this is definitely something we'll be keeping an eye on. After the stream ends, about an hour after, on our Facebook and Twitter pages, you'll be seeing an Itsani cone come out. So you'll be able to see Force 13's current forecast on that. Alright, well, now let's move on to something that's been getting a lot of conversation in the chat before we'll move on to questions and more talk about Goni. Tropical Storm Eta has formed in the Atlantic Ocean, winds of 40 miles per hour and a pressure of 1,005 millibars. This is, unfortunately, of no surprise, and there are signs pointing to this becoming a significant hurricane. To the team, what do we think's going on with Eta? And if you're in Honduras or Nicaragua, what should you be doing right now?
Oh, well, one thing I would prepare for is at least a hurricane impact, especially in Nicaragua and Honduras. But also, I would prepare for potential flooding. I was just going through the National Hurricane Center forecast or public advisory, and they're forecasting 5 to 10 inches of rain with local 15 inches of rain. Across, across Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and possibly the southern coast of Hispaniola. Across portions of Central America, 10 to 15 inches of rain, with local amounts of up to 25 inches are expected. So that's worse than I thought it was.
Yeah, certainly, and we don't have a CDPS rating for this right now. We'll have a CDPS rating by this time tomorrow, though. Hurricane Watch is already in effect, but I'd imagine, just based on the rain alone, we're looking at least a Stage 3. So this is definitely of concern, and with those wind speeds, I'd say a Stage 4 is on the cards right now. We'll have to see, but again, we'll have a more official CDPS rating come out by tomorrow. So that'll be definitely something for our American viewers to look at for sure. Alright, well, with that being said, let's take a look. We did issue a cone earlier today when this was a tropical depression. We're expecting a 90 mile per hour peak. We did as of earlier today. Could potentially go up tomorrow. We'll have to see. But now the National Hurricane Center also expecting that 90 mile per hour peak. So we'll have to see what happens. This is the National Hurricane Center's cone. Hurricane watches are now in effect. This is definitely a concern for both Nicaragua and Honduras. But again, you can see a 40 mile per hour storm moving west at 15 miles an hour. Expected to take a little bit of a southward jog, which isn't particularly normal of storms, but you know, something else that I want to mention is that this storm could be could potentially be more dangerous than anticipated now. This could be a conservative forecast. We'll have to see. But to the team, what do we think the ceiling for Eta is right now?
Well, MPI values, maximum potential intensity values, are easily still in the Category 5 range for pretty much all the Caribbean at this point. Not going to necessarily say it's going to reach that intensity here, but certainly concerning to still see that here in November here in the Caribbean. So could definitely turn into at least perhaps a major hurricane here if it develops, in a quite rapid and quick pace here. And also another thing to note is that the models are also kind of all over the place with this thing as well, kind of like they are with Itsani here, and at the fact that they have it either kind of stalling near the coast of Honduras or Nicaragua there, or just barely touching the country there and zooming off to the north, due north, and getting pulled towards Cuba and that area of the world there. So it's kind of a really uncertain forecast as well with this thing, but regardless, if it does end up kind of slowing down or stalling near the Nicaragua or Honduras coastline, like you guys have stated earlier, this could be a really potentially devastating flood event we're looking at here, regardless of how strong the storm is.
Yeah, and we'll see just how strong it gets. Force 13 will be tracking this. We track tropical cyclones all around the world. Let's take a look at the key messages here that have just come out. It looks like the main points are that this storm is expected to strengthen into a hurricane early next week. As it approaches the coast of Central America late Monday into Monday night, there's a risk of storm surge, hurricane force winds, and heavy rainfall. As well, hurricane watches have also been issued, and hurricane warnings could be needed for portions of those areas by Sunday. And through Thursday evening, heavy rainfall from Ada may lead to flash flooding and river flooding across portions of Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Central America, which could cause landslides in areas of higher terrain. Flooding is also possible near the southern coast of Hispaniola, depending upon the track of the storm. So it's definitely something of concern, to say the least. And finally, we do have that new Pagasa graphic. I do just want to head back to that real quick. Again, if you look at the bottom bar of our stream, you'll see generally what the signal warnings are. That's what they were before this Pagasa update. So I just want to reiterate that once more before we do go back. We're going to be taking questions now. Just mention Force 13, and we will be more than glad to answer your questions. But we're going to primarily be focusing on Goni tonight. If you're if you have questions about Ada, we'll get to a few of them, but our vast majority of our attention is placed on Goni, as it is currently impacting land and bringing catastrophic impacts to the Philippines. Alright, so we do have a few questions. Let me just find a few. We have quite a few that have gone up in our chat. So let me just find one real quick, and then we will be happy to answer. Alright, so first question, when will Goni move out of the Philippines?
For the current... I was just going to say, the current thinking as of this latest forecast count, at least from the Joint Typhoon Warning Centers, it looks like it's either going to be just barely coming off of the coast here. Looks like by around 12 UTC, November 1st here. But it looks of it as around a 90-knot typhoon here, at least on the JTWC side of things for Typhoon Goni.
Yeah, and that JCWC count on your screen, but I'd say that you'll stop getting tropical storm conditions within the next 18 to 24 hours. This will be out of there by then, with rainfall and stuff stopping within the next 2 days. Our next question is worst and best case scenarios for the next places of landfall for Goni. So when it comes to where the storm's going to make landfall, we don't know exactly. What we do know is that there is a worst and a best case. The worst case would be the storm maintaining much of its strength and still being a major typhoon as it moves off the coast of the Philippines, bringing 115 mile per hour plus impacts. That appears at this point unlikely. The best case scenario, this weakens to a 45 to 50 knot tropical storm moving off the coast of the Philippines. That also appears unlikely. We're probably going to see a 80 to 85 knot typhoon coming off of the Philippines, still a strong Category 1 to low-end Category 2. We'll just have to see. Alright, we are seeing some very kind messages in the chat. I would just like to take a moment to say thanks to all of you for viewing this stream tonight. We all do really appreciate it, and I know that there are a few of you that are thanking us for this coverage. This is stuff that we love to do, and not only that, but all of you here do deserve to be informed. You deserve to have this information, and that's exactly what we're here to do. So that's our purpose. That's what we're going to be doing. So, with that being said, we're going to take some more questions, and we will continue down that line. Alright. Will this be an extreme wind event for Metro Manila? That's the next question that came in. I guess it depends on what you define as an extreme wind event. Manila is now in Signal 4 warnings, so it's certainly been a concern, but I don't know. Paul, what exactly are Signal 4 warnings? What conditions can you expect with those?
So, signal number 4 warnings, they start at wind speeds of 171 kilometers per hour, and maximum is 220 kilometers per hour. I would just like to make a correction. TCWS number 5 actually starts at 221 kilometers per hour. So basically, going back to the answer, you can expect some uprooted trees, flying debris, especially metal roofs, like what happened in a lot of storms which has reached that category.
All right, so definitely, I would consider that an extreme wind event. So I would definitely be taking this storm seriously. We have another question that has come in. What are we going to be looking at with Itsani when it comes to impacts for the Philippines? There are no warnings in effect for it right now. In effect regarding Itsani. But again, around 5 days out, we have the JTWC with a forecast point of a typhoon over Luzon, and there's a lot of uncertainty with this. This could be stronger, this could be weaker, and this could be north or south. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty, but when it comes to Itsani, if I'm in Luzon, I'd be watching this closely. You know, Itsani at one point was supposed to be the big one, and Goni was supposed to be the less intense one. I don't anticipate Itsani being anywhere near what it was initially anticipated to be, but still, this could be a significant typhoon impact for northern Luzon, and even though Goni will probably dwarf it in maximum intensity, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be taking it seriously. Alright, we have more questions here. Are there any other areas of interest in the Atlantic aside from Eta? And what is your worst reasonable worst case scenario for Eta? So this is an Atlantic question. We'll talk about it for just a little bit. So when it comes to other areas of interest, there are no areas of interest right now. But the strange thing is, in the longer range, we could see Eta actually split, become a Central American gyre, and it could form multiple tropical cyclones. So we'll see what exactly happens there. But also, what is a reasonable worst case scenario? I'd say that a reasonable worst case scenario is a Category 3 landfall in Honduras. So, I mean, you know, that I don't like saying that, but this is in the conditions that it needs in order to intensify quickly. So we're going to see if it manages to do so, but it's definitely of concern. Isaac, do you have anything to add there?
Well, I mean, just like what you're saying too, I mean, nothing's really stopping it from really intensifying here. The only things that I could see, and of course, you know, I wish we had Devin here. He could probably go into more detail about this, but the only things that I could see really weakening the storm at this point is either, you know, its own structure here. Maybe it has a failed, you know, elevation cycle if it does get to hurricane status, or, you know, its land in general here. If it, you know, stays too close to the land here, might weaken it. If it stays, you know, over the same area of waters, it might weaken it as well too. So it's just really dependent on, I guess, track for the most part here, on what the ultimate intensity will be on this storm.
Yeah, alright, we do have someone saying they did join the stream a little late. What is the wind and pressure for Goni? That is on our bottom bar. You can see that pass through the bottom bar from time to time. But the wind speeds for the storm, 150 miles per hour. A pressure of 929 millibars is Force 13's current estimate. We will see whether that does maintain itself towards the end of the hour. We may have a new intensity fix. If it doesn't come out at the end of the hour, at the end of the stream, you can always check out our Facebook and Twitter. We'll have a new intensity estimate within about 10 minutes of the stream ending if it doesn't come out by the end of the hour. So, but right now, 150 miles per hour, 929 millibars. Alright, next question. Will Goni hit Vietnam as a typhoon? So this is a harder question, and the reason that it's a more difficult question is because the storm is expected to weaken substantially, Goni, as it does move over the Philippines. It's been doing that. We don't know how strong it's going to be as it heads off the coast, and that's going to be a big determiner because it's going to maintain itself after weakening a little more in the South China Sea. So we'll definitely be seeing a system that's significant Currently, we have a 50-mile-per-hour landfall in Vietnam as our forecast, but the JTWC has it at 65 miles per hour. The general trend for the landfall has been going up in model guidance as of late, so there is a slight possibility of a typhoon landfall. I would be saying overall the odds are below 50% of that, but I can't rule that out for sure. Alright, next question. Is Super Typhoon Rolly like Super Typhoon Angela from 1995 because of the same track layout and fall date that took place? So, I'm not a historian. I don't know much about this. I know that our chief hurricane analyst earlier today, Devin Williams, had a lot of thoughts about this being similar to Angela. I don't know about these comparisons as well as he does. I think Isaac also knows a bit about Angela, so Isaac, I'll let you take this question.
What I do know about this typhoon is that it peaked on November 1st, because that happens to be my birthday. It peaked on November 1st as, I believe, a 185 mile per hour Category 5 typhoon, if I'm not mistaken, and it happened at a similar time, of the year 1985, about 25 years ago. And, that was also a really, devastating and catastrophic typhoon in its own right. So I could kind of see comparisons here between the two typhoons here, really both catastrophic Category 5 typhoons here. They didn't necessarily hit in the same part of the Philippines here, but I can certainly see the type of comparison they're going with here in terms of time of year, the storm and Angela made landfall in.
Yeah, so again, definitely there are some comparisons to be made. Is there a chance of Eta moving farther north than anticipated, actually making a northward turn? I'll let you take that if you want.
Well, the models are still kind of just all over the place with the storm. Some of them take it just straight through Nicaragua and Honduras and have it weakening and dying there. Some of it have it surviving and coming back out into the Caribbean and racing on off towards the north, towards Cuba, or perhaps even Florida, the Bahamas. So it's kind of just a wide possibility, a wide area of possibilities with this particular storm here. It's kind of a really uncertain forecast once you get past about 60 hours or so here. So I imagine once we get like a more well-defined center of circulation, and I believe Hurricane reconnaissance aircraft is going to go into there tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, and investigate the system. I think tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening, so we'll get more data on that if that mission does end up going through.
Yeah, and I believe it will be. We have another question here that I do want to get to. So someone asking, what is going on with the high pressure near Taiwan? If that became stronger, would Itsani landfall again on Bicol or central Luzon? So the philosophy right now, the forecast philosophy, does have a lot to do with that high pressure system. The stronger the high, the farther south the storm's going to go. So unfortunately, I can't rule out a central Luzon landfall from a significant typhoon Itsani. I can't rule out a double whammy from this. So I would be preparing after Goni moves through to receive typhoon conditions yet again, because the unfortunate thing is, even if Itsani doesn't impact Taiwan, which the GFS predicts it will, there's another system behind that that's been shown on the long range about 7 to 8 days time from now that also could impact Luzon, as you can see on that GFS run right there. So it's a little bit of a problem, but we'll just have to see what exactly does happen there. I would be preparing for a typhoon yet again in the central Luzon area, regardless of Itsani's particular track. We have someone asking, can you access the Pagasa website? I've been talking to the team. All of us have been having problems connecting to Pagasa. I think it's just because of the sheer volume of traffic, because there has been a historic landfall today. So that is definitely it's definitely a problem that we've all been having.
I was able to, of course, as you say that, I was able to get the site up and loading here somehow.
Yeah, I also have it now.
Do you have it on your screen share?
I do.
All right, well, let's...
Just the text bulletin.
Well, let's just take a quick look at that. I know that we've been looking to see if a landfall was declared. Paul, have we gotten a landfall
Oh
from
wait,
Pagasa?
that's not the new bulletin yet. I don't know why Pag-asa is taking so long.
Mm.
Yeah, it's the 8 a.m. bulletin. We are looking for an
Yeah,
11 a.m. bulletin. So yeah, we're looking for
yeah.
bulletin 15.
Wow.
That'll be that latest bulletin. So we'll see when that comes out. But yeah, it looks like Pagasa has been taking their time. When that bulletin does come out, we will be sure to let you know what they do have to say. Alright, well, let's see. I'm going to be looking through for some more questions here. How strong will this storm be, and what time will it be when it passes Metro Manila? I'd assume you're talking about Goni. Yes, talking about Goni here. How strong will it be? When it passes Metro Manila, we're expecting a 100 mile per hour Category 2 typhoon to be moving on through. So that is a significant typhoon that can still bring some significant damage. It could be a little stronger than that. Alright, we have another thing from that. What time will it pass through Metro Manila? This is as of 11 a.m. Philippine Standard Time, so about 12 hours from then, around 11 p.m., that's when we're expecting that pass through Metro Manila. So impacts, more significant impacts around 8 p.m. are really going to start to come in. Alright, we have a question of interest here. Someone asking, can you please explain the reason why Eta ties 2005 in total storms? Because people keep saying Zeta ties 2005, which is wrong by data. Okay, so this is what I have to say about that. I'll just clarify this real quick. There are a couple of things. So, first of all, when it comes to the amount of Greek names that we've gone through, Eta is the farthest we've ever gone. Objectively, farther than 2005, we have never used the name Eta before. So then you might be asking, well, why is it that we actually are tied when it comes to the amount of tropical storms that we've gotten? Well, that's because the National Hurricane Center in 2005 missed a tropical storm and they added it in post-analysis, so it never did receive a name. So that means that Eta, because it is one more storm than Zeta, would ultimately tie 2005 because, again, the NHC missed a storm in 2005 before post-analysis. So that would be that. Alright, Paul, looks like we do have that Pagasa update now. So, what are we looking at here?
So we can confirm already that Pag-asa has downgraded the storm into typhoon status. As you can see, with the absence of signal number 5, they have dropped those signals already. So we're just gonna do a quick rundown. Whole Luzon is now under basically a TCWS signal, whether be it 1, 2, 3, 4. Even the northern parts, Ilocos Norte, Apayao, and Cagayan. But the main attraction here is the signal number 4 warnings that are now being raised basically in the path of the storm. So we have Metro Manila over there, Rizal, Bulacan, Pampanga, Zambales, Batangas, Cavite, Laguna, Marinduque, northern part of Occidental Mindoro and Oriental Mindoro. We have Quezon, Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur, Albay, Catanduanes, and Boreas Islands. So those are the places under signal number 4 right now. Location of the eye center at 10 a.m. today. The center of the eye of Typhoon Rolly was located based on all available data, including DAET Doppler radar over the coastal waters of Pasacao, Camarines Sur, or 30 kilometers west-southwest of Pili, Camarines Sur. Strength maximum sustained winds of 215 kilometers per hour. So in Pag-asa's terms, it has weakened about 10 kilometers. So that puts it at typhoon status right now, near the center, and gustiness of up to 295 kilometers per hour. Movement speed is pretty much the same over the past 3 hours at 25 kilometers per hour. As you can see with the track I have provided, I think they provided the wrong picture here, but so far it still puts it at the southern tip of Metro Manila in the following hours.
Yeah, and we can see that there clearly. They are saying the center of the eye of Raleigh was located based on all available data, including Doppler radar, over the coastal waters of Pasaco. So that's definitely what we're looking at right now, according to Pagasa's update here. All right, with that being said, we do have some stuff from Ike here. Ike, this is his camera from the Philippines. He's in Laguna, so he is under a signal 4 warning, and you can see there some significant winds really are starting to come in from Goni. It's quite a concerning situation, and conditions are only expected to continue to deteriorate, but you can see there on that camera one of our contributors on the ground here in the Philippines. So we'll be continuing to take a look at that camera. Let's take a look at where Goni is relative to Ike, and we can actually take a look at that signal warning. You can see Laguna there. Right in the middle of Luzon, you can see right about here. So they are on the northern side of some outer bands, and they might get the northern eye wall of the storm. If not, they're definitely going to be still getting some significant impacts, and you can see that here on the camera, some really significant winds that are really starting to come in there. So this is definitely something of concern, and you can see there, it looks like some debris that's been flying around, and now it looks like there's been some rainfall as well. So definitely something of concern. This looks like a significant typhoon impact is going to be occurring in Ike's area there in Bay Laguna. So with that being said, again, the storm continues to weaken. We have a question here that says, is there a possibility that 2 typhoons pulling on each other can merge into one? Now, the reality is that's never happened, at least to my knowledge, and that won't happen because of a thing called the Fujiwara effect. So basically, when you get 2 storms that are close enough to each other to start interacting, they'll spin around each other, but they'll actually kind of compete for energy and tear each other apart. It's very difficult to get storms to maintain or strengthen in a Fujiwara kind of setting. There's normally going to be one dominant system and one less dominant system in that kind of scenario.
I do know that's happened before, of course, in the West Pacific. A classic textbook example of that would be Typhoons Pat. I think it's Pat and Ruth, and I believe that was in 1997 or 1995, if I'm not mistaken. They ended when the Fujiwara effect formed into one storm. It didn't form into a typhoon, of course, but they formed into one storm and then quickly weakened due to some high winds here and died right as soon as they merged into a one little tiny tropical system. So it does happen, but it's like you said, Thomas, it's very rare for it to happen with storms and really hard to predict.
Yeah, so I believe what you're saying is that it's not like 2 stronger storms merging into one. It's you get one of the storms dominates the other, and the other one gets ripped apart and absorbed into it. Would that be correct?
Yeah, in most cases that's the case, but with the case that I was mentioning, I forgot. I know one of the storms was slightly stronger than the other. It pulled it in, formed into kind of this one little one little tropical system. Then, like I said, they just got sheared because they're at a really high latitude and died. So I mean, it can occasionally happen, but like I said, it's really rare for it to happen, and usually one of the storms ends up dying and either getting absorbed into the other, or both of them end up dying in the process, depending on where they're located at. But regardless, still a pretty rare event and not really likely to happen in this particular scenario.
Well, the more you know. All right, moving on here, we can see a couple of other questions. How close is the center of Goni forecasted to approach to Quezon City and the Metro Manila area? I believe Quezon City is literally right next to Metro Manila, so they're pretty much the same place.
No, Quezon City is in Metro Manila.
It is in Metro Manila. Okay, so it's pretty much the same. Yeah, we had this on our forecast. It goes south of Metro Manila. I don't know. I feel like that's less than 100 kilometers or so. It's pretty close. It's a pretty close call on ours, but it could be anywhere from a direct hit to significantly south. So it's definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
All right. We have another question. Can this intensify between the islands of the Philippines? Don't even mention that. I don't. I don't think this one's going to. I think it's been disrupted enough. It's not going to manage to do so. It's not going to have enough time over water to do so. I would be very surprised if it did, and it would be a very worrying thing if it did.
Let's hope it doesn't. I mean, radar at least shows it's a pretty. The structure is pretty degraded at this point. It's not, as picturesque as it looked like when we were talking in our last live stream here. So, doesn't look like it's going to really intensify much if it does even get a chance to do that here.
Yeah, it does look like it is degrading quite a bit.
It has weakened a lot in several hours, though, it seems, based on GTWC and GMA.
Exactly. It went from the JTWC and the last update went from 170 knot Cat 5 Super Typhoon to now in this latest update 115 mile per hour low end Cat 4 Typhoon.
Yeah, there we go.
And also on this radar, you can see the really heavy rainfall associated with this typhoon as well to the north.
It's extremely heavy, and we actually saw that on that camera just a little bit ago. I'm actually going to pull that camera back up, and we do have a question, which is, how is this affecting Bulacan right now? I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Paul, how are they? What are they experiencing right now?
So Bulacan is right now in signal number 4 status. Let me get that up. Yeah, it is in signal number 4 status right now. So you can I don't really know what they are in right now, but I can make sure that they're gonna expect signal number 4 winds, which is 171 kilometers per hour to 220 kilometers per hour, sort of in that area. So again, the damage will be uprooted trees, basically flying debris, sorts of those stuff, and you can also experience flash floods because one of the factors that makes this storm dangerous is the rain after all. So I hope you stay safe there.
Yes, definitely. We are wishing for everyone's safety in this situation. It's been a concerning one to say the least.
Yes.
We do have another question. Can Itsani become stronger? I know we've talked about it a little bit tonight. There's a lot of uncertainty with Itsani right now, but it's expected to impact some sort of land, right now Luzon most likely, as a significant Category 1 or 2 typhoon. We'll have to see, but I think Itsani's definitely going to strengthen some over the next few days. To the team, what's your thoughts on Itsani and its potential impacts to the Philippines?
I think regardless... Go ahead.
Go ahead. You go first.
I was gonna say, I think regardless of track, I mean, this could also potentially be a significant typhoon. Of course, I don't think, at least at this point in time, we're not going to be at the same caliber. Of course, Goni was not too long ago, but still, regardless, perhaps maybe Cat 3/4 typhoon. We may be looking at near Luzon. And of course, models are still they're not as widespread as they were originally, but now they're kind of narrowing down, perhaps on either skirting Luzon or going over Luzon or passing to the north of Luzon here, compared to when some of them were saying that it was going to go up to Japan in the last few model runs. So they're getting a little bit better agreement here that somewhere in the Philippines is going to get either some sort of impacts from this typhoon here, some sort of impacts from it. And I think this storm still needs to be taken seriously.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, with that being said, we do have some other questions. Paul, I think you might know a little bit about this. Someone asking, do you have data about the, excuse me if I butcher this, the Marikina River that might overflow with
Marikina River.
The Marikina River,
Marikina
yes.
River. Yeah. So I'm gonna quickly go to Pagasa's Facebook page because honestly, I haven't read about the advisories on the estuaries and rivers regarding its impacts from Goni. And looking at it right now, yeah, they have been releasing some advisories about rivers, but I haven't seen one for Marikina.
All right,
I
well,
am scrolling right now. Wait.
all right, well, when we do get that data, we will let you know. Um, Real quick, also, we have some other questions as well. What time will the center of Goni hit Manila? We don't know if the center of Goni will hit Manila. If it did, it would be around 11 p.m. Philippine time, 10 to 11 p.m. But we don't actually know for sure that the center will hit Manila. I think that's important to clarify at this point. So we'll just have to see. All right, some more questions that have come in. The biggest question of the evening, I've been seeing this a lot. I guess we will have to address it. Can Ada become a Category 5? I think that the answer is it could, but I'd give it a 1 in 1 million chance, and that's not even an exaggeration.
Yeah, it's not impossible per se, just extremely unlikely at this point. I mean, like I said earlier, the MPI values, the maximum potential intensity values, are still Cat 5 intensity where the storm is going to be headed into. But whether it takes advantage of that and, rapidly or explosively intensifies, who knows at this point. Hopefully it doesn't. But regardless, it's still forecast to be a perhaps significant typhoon and significant flooding threat for parts of Honduras and Nicaragua we're looking at here, potentially.
Yes, for sure. All right, some more questions, more Atlantic-related questions here. We are saying, when do we think Theta will form? We don't know. We anticipate it will in November. But we don't know exactly when. And then our next question, can we confirm that Typhoon Goni has made a third landfall in the Philippines as infrared imagery has shown? At this point, I'm not 100% sure. Paul, do we have news on that?
So I'm gonna quickly go to the satellite imager now, and it seems like it's about to make a third landfall. But Pagasa has, again, in their 11 p.m. advisory, has said that it is still in the coast of, where was that again? Pasacao, Camarines Sur. So maybe in the following hours or in the 2 p.m. bulletin of Pag-asa, they might actually say that it has made its third landfall right now. But since it hasn't confirmed yet, and then I actually rely on Pag-asa because it's the National Weather Bureau of the Philippines, we still can't clearly say. But again, in the satellite image, it clearly is gonna go for a third landfall in a matter of minutes or hours right now.
All right, and we do have some breaking news at this point, and that is that we can confirm something real quick. Force 13 has declared that Goni has made its third landfall in the Philippines. After some analysis of satellite data throughout these questions tonight, we can determine that a significant landfall has occurred. The intensity of the landfall still pending. As of now, though, the latest intensity fix from Force 13 very well could be 140 miles per hour, 934 millibars. We will have to see what the exact intensity fix is. You will be seeing that on a sitrep here in about 5 to 10 minutes. We will just have to see.
It looks like it's making landfall currently at Quezon province. Is it?
You could see on radar there the not so well defined eye there, approaching Santa Narcisco. I think it's what it's that town name is called.
Yeah, there we go.
So,
but we can say now that the storm has weakened significantly a lot from its first landfall at Catanduanes. I don't know if you will agree with this, but it seems like it is.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the previous Joint Typhoon Warning Center forecast for this, like I said, had this, of course, as a monster, 170 knot Cat 5 super typhoon here. And then this latest update is 115 knot, or about 130 mile an hour low end Cat
Yeah,
4 typhoon looking at here. So certainly, rapid weakening is certainly undergoing with this particular storm right now.
which is good news, but we still can't discount the fact that this storm is actually very life-threatening. So wherever you are right now, please stay safe.
Absolutely, for sure. And if you are in any of those signal warnings, the Pagasa website does show you what you can expect within all of those warnings and what preparations you should take. Preparations should have been completed a while ago if you were in the Philippines. But right now, if you can, make as many preparations as you can. If you're in the eye of the storm, it's too late. You need to be getting to shelter. But if you have a few hours before the storm hits you, make sure that you are using every minute to prepare. Alright, we do have a couple more questions we're going to answer, and then we're going to be heading off the air for tonight. If Goni hit central Luzon, would there be a different story? If we had a 190 plus mile an hour storm ramming into central Luzon, I think we've had that story before. Typhoon Yolanda or Haiyan would be that story. So I think that we know it would definitely be a different story when it comes to the areas impacted and how quickly the storm would weaken, but still a significant typhoon for sure. Actually, my bad, I got my geography wrong. That was the central Philippines. Central Luzon, I'm not sure when the last time they got impacted by a big Cat 5 was, but that would be the kind of story you'd be seeing here. Much quicker weakening would also be occurring as well. So that's my bad, I got my geography wrong. But if the storm hit central Luzon, it would be weakening much more quickly.
I think the last major storm to hit Luzon, I want to say, was May of 2010, if my memory serves me right. That hit as a, I believe, 180 or 185 mile an hour super typhoon in 2010.
Wow. All right,
If I'm not
well,
mistaken.
we have some questions, and Paul, I think you'd be on this. Do we have any reports from Catanduanes on any impacts that they've received so far?
Okay, so I have been skimming and scrolling through social media, especially Twitter. I can report that there are already, but I can't get hold of them right now since my internet is not cooperating at all.
Well, that's all good, but we are getting some reports out of Catanduanes, and we have seen that significant damage is definitely occurring. We have some final questions before we do go tonight, so we're just going to do a speed round real quick. We will just be taking a look real quick. What are the 10-minute sustained winds of Goni? I believe that that's something Pagasa just released in their new update.
Yeah, so 200. It is in 10-minute sustained wind, by the way. So 215 kilometers per hour, well below Pagasa's super typhoon category, and gustiness of up to 295 kilometers per hour.
All right, and with that, we just have a final thing for the night. To the team, what are your closing thoughts on this this typhoon and the overall world of tropics right now?
So we clearly have seen Pacific being so very quiet this year, especially the Western Pacific, with little storms which are reaching Category 3, in my opinion. So this is actually the first super typhoon of the season, and it's not a force that it's not something that we should not prepare about. This storm is actually on par with Haiyan and Meranti as the most powerful landfalling storm. So that's already an enough reason to prepare and actually stay away from the wrath that the storm may give. That's all.
I think you know, sure, Typhoon Goni is of course rapidly weakened here, but that doesn't set aside the significant impacts this typhoon still has here. And I know I really sound like a broken record because I keep repeating the same thing here, but I really want to stress to people, just because it's weakening does not mean this is all of a sudden nothing to worry about. Just classic typhoon here. This is still of course a Category 4 typhoon we're talking about, and it still has a really decently significant rainfall totals with it as well too. There's a lot of rainfall associated north of the center of circulation with this, so I imagine it's probably going to be a lot of flash flooding and perhaps mudslides occurring in parts of the Philippines here. So regardless if we get in the center or not of this storm, it could still potentially be damaging here. And of course with at Sani, just please keep an eye on it. Forecast is still kind of uncertain, but the models are kind of honing in now on either it coming really close to Luzon or perhaps making a landfall over Luzon as perhaps maybe a Cat 1, Cat 2 typhoon at this point. Of course, I could easily change here, so just keep up with the Joint Typhoon Warning Center and ask for the latest updates on that. And also with the Tropical Storm Eta, really also a kind of an uncertain forecast with that. It could either stall near the coastline or stall over land here. But regardless with that scenario for Tropical Storm Eta, significant rainfall and flash flooding threat, if I could speak here, is certainly on the cards for that particular storm as well.
All right, and with that being said, we're going to be ending off the stream tonight. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want more coverage on Typhoon Goni or Rolly here in the Philippines, you can go over to our 24/7 live streaming service with the most up-to-date information that you'll be needing for all of the world of tropics. So for the latest information, we do have an automated streaming service that does run 24/7, so you'll always have the latest information. With that being said, we're going to be having a forecast cone coming out on Etsani within the next hour on our Force 13 social media pages, and we'll also be having hourly updates on Goni's intensity for the foreseeable future, so that way you'll know the latest. This is definitely a Category 4, and we are thinking it could have weakened to 145 or 140 miles per hour. The latest intensity estimate will be coming out within the next 10 to 15 minutes on our social media platforms. Alright, well, we'll be ending it off for the night tonight. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and we do hope to see you in the next stream.
Force 13 has launched a merch store where you can support our project even more by showing our colours, just like this shirt I'm wearing. Or if the weather gets a bit colder, maybe this hoodie as well, of course. And of course, they go in all kinds of different varying colours. Or even pillows. I love a good pillow fight. Or even these amazing hurricane-themed phone cases. Or how about a drink out of this Force 13 mug? So you can find the wonders of Force 13's merch store online at store.force13.com. Ah! Oh! Who did that? Making its infamous landfall, Hurricane Michael is still a Category 3 as it enters the state of Georgia.